Hi, boys and girls. How are you feeling today? Are you feeling happy? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling grumpy? I was feeling kind of sad the other day, and maybe you felt sad sometimes. And I thought maybe it would be a good time for us to talk about feelings, because everybody has different feelings. Sometimes you can have different feelings in the same day. You could wake up happy, then something could happen and you turn out being sad or grumpy or angry. So let's see what's in the story bag, because I have a feeling there's some books in there about feelings. Mr. Grumpy.
Mr. Grumpy by Roger Hargreaves. It was a lovely summer evening. Mr. Grumpy was relaxing at home. He leaned back in his armchair and picked up a book. Then, do you know what he did? He tore out all the pages, every one. They flew all over the room. You see, Mr. Grumpy couldn't stand books. He had a very bad temper. In fact, he was probably the most bad-tempered person you have ever met. Grumpy by name, grumpy by nature. The following morning, Mr. Grumpy was out in his garden pulling up all the flowers. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw somebody. It was Mr. Happy. "Good morning," exclaimed Mr. Happy. "Good?" cried Mr. Grumpy. "What's good about it?" "But," said Mr. Happy. "But nothing," interrupted Mr. Grumpy. "Get out of my garden." "I beg your pardon," said Mr. Happy. "You heard me," snapped Mr. Grumpy. "Go away." "Honestly," laughed Mr. Happy, "you are a bad-tempered fellow, aren't you?" "Humph," grunted Mr. Grumpy. "And," Mr. Happy went on, "bad-tempered fellows need to change their ways." "Rubbish," grumbled Mr. Grumpy. He stamped into his cottage, stamping right on Mr. Happy's foot on purpose as he passed. "Ouch!" cried Mr. Happy. Bang went the door of his cottage as Mr. Grumpy slammed it behind him. Mr. Happy stood there looking not quite as happy as he normally did. His foot hurt. He stood there thinking and thinking, and he thought some more. Then he had a great idea. He smiled and went to see Mr. Tickle. Mr. Happy told Mr. Tickle about his idea to get Mr. Grumpy to change his ways. Mr. Tickle grinned a grin that could have stretched from ear to ear, if he had ears, which he doesn't. "That sounds like fun," he grinned. That afternoon, Mr. Grumpy went shopping in town. He walked into Mrs. Cookie's bakery first. "Gimme a cake," he snapped, "and hurry up." Poor Mrs. Cookie did as she was told. She was afraid of Mr. Grumpy. But just as she was handing him the cake, something appeared in the doorway. It was a very, very, very long arm belonging to Mr. Tickle. That very, very, very long arm of his came through the door across the shop and tickled Mr. Grumpy. "Oh!" squealed Mr. Grumpy, dropping his cake. He just couldn't understand what was happening. And you know what? That very, very, very long arm kept following Mr. Grumpy all around all day long. It tickled him at Mr. Daly's newsstand. It tickled him at Mrs. Sweet's candy store. It tickled him in Mr. Packet's grocery store. And it tickled him in Mr. Bottle's dairy. All afternoon, Mr. Grumpy kept being tickled, dropping his packages and picking them up, and being tickled, dropping his packages, picking them up, and being tickled again. He couldn't understand why that very, very, very long arm kept following him. On his way home, he met Mr. Happy again. "Get out of my way before I kick you," snapped Mr. Grumpy. But just then, the very, very, very long arm appeared and tickled him again. He jumped, and his packages went flying again. I think, Mr. Happy said, that if you were to change your ways and not be so bad-tempered, this might not happen to you so often. Mr. Grumpy simply grunted. But on his way home, he did think about what Mr. Happy had said. He didn't like being tickled. Mr. Happy and Mr. Tickle smiled and shook hands. After that day, Mr. Grumpy tried to be nicer, and the more he tried, the less he was tickled by the very, very, very long arm. These days, he's a different kind of person. Why, the other evening, he picked up a book, and guess what? He only tore out one of the pages. The end.
Oh, poor Mr. Grumpy. He was having a bad day, wasn't he? Good thing he has friends like Mr. Happy and Mr. Tickle to help him feel better. Let's see, I think there's something else besides books in the story bag today. Oh, there's a game. These are faces. You see the different faces? There's something different about each one of them. It's the way they're feeling. Would you like to play a game with these faces? We'll see if we can guess what everybody's feeling.
So here's the first face, boys and girls. What do you think this person is feeling? How do you think they're feeling? We can look at their eyes, and we can look especially at their mouth. What kind of a mouth does this person have? Looks like they're smiling. So I think they're happy. Maybe this person is happy because they see their family, or they got a present, or they're happy because they're reading their favorite storybook. Let's look at the next one. Now, how do you think this person is feeling? Their mouth is very wide open and their eyes are wider open too. Maybe they are surprised? I think this person just got a surprise. Do you think it was a good surprise? Maybe somebody brought them something, a present, a balloon maybe? Or maybe their balloon popped. That would be a big surprise too. What about this person? What does their mouth tell about them? Let's look at their mouth. Does that look like a happy mouth? Or a big open surprised mouth? No, that looks like a sad mouth. And sad eyes too. And even their eyebrows make their face look sad. I wonder what happened. I hope they feel better soon. This is a different kind of a face. Their eyes are very little. And their mouth, what's the mouth telling us about them? It's not really a sad mouth. It's definitely not a happy mouth or a surprised mouth. I think this person is feeling worried about something. Now, what about this person? Let's look at their eyebrows and their mouth. Do they look happy or sad? I don't think so. I think this is an angry face. Something must have happened to make this person feel angry. And we're back to our happy face again. What makes you feel happy? What makes you feel surprised? What makes you feel angry? What makes you feel sad? And do you ever feel worried? Anytime you're having big feelings, you should talk to somebody about it.
What do you like to do when you're happy? Or what do you like to do when you're sad? Do you have something that you do when you're feeling worried or anxious? Something I like to do if I'm anxious or I'm kind of sad, I like to draw or paint. Sometimes I'll talk to a friend or go for a walk. There's lots of things we can do to help us feel better. And when we're happy, there's lots of things that we can do that we can be happy with our friends. Would you like to sing a song about feelings and things that we can do when we have those feelings? I bet you know this song. It's called If You're Happy and You Know It. And you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Now let's be angry. If you're angry and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're angry and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're angry and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're angry and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're tired and you know it, carry on. If you're tired and you know it, carry on. If you're tired and you know it, you really want to show it. If you're tired and you know it, give it your whew. But if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. There should be one more story in our story bag. Let's see what it is. The Rabbit Listened. The Rabbit Listened by Corey Dorfeld. One day, Taylor decided to build something new, something special, something amazing. Taylor was so proud. But then, out of nowhere, things came crashing down. The chicken was the first to notice. Cluck, cluck, what a shame. I'm so sorry this happened. Let's talk about it. Cluck, cluck, cluck. But Taylor didn't feel like talking, so the chicken left. Next came the bear.
Grr, how horrible. I bet you feel so angry. Let's shout about it. Grr, grr, grr. But Taylor didn't feel like shouting, so the bear left. The elephant knew just what to do. Trump-da! I can fix this. We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering, so the elephant left. One by one they came. The hyena, let's laugh about it. The ostrich, let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo, what a mess, let's throw it all away. And the snake, shh, let's go knock down someone else's. But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anybody. So eventually, they all left, until Taylor was alone. In the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice the rabbit, but it moved closer and closer, until Taylor could feel its warm body. Together, they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please stay with me." The rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered and laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things for someone else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing." The end.
I like this story. Sometimes we have lots of feelings inside and we just need somebody to listen like Rabbit did. Well, that's everything for today, boys and girls. Do you remember what we did today? We started off by reading Mr. Grumpy, and we met Mr. Grumpy and his friends, Mr. Happy and Mr. Tickle. And then we talked about all the different feelings that the children were showing on their faces, and we tried to guess how each child was feeling. And we also sang, "If you're happy and you know it," maybe that's something you can sing the next time you're feeling happy or grumpy, or angry, or even tired. And then we read The Rabbit Listened. And sometimes that's all we need when we're feeling sad or shy or angry or grumpy or hurt or anxious, is just someone who can listen. Well, I enjoyed reading and playing games with you today, boys and girls. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.